And also, if you have a pen, something to write with, and also a notepad nearby, we'll be doing some quick writes and just kind of starting to take our notes. That's the bad part about being virtual. If we were in person, we'd have all the wonderful things on the table and notepads and squishy balls and markers and all of that. But unfortunately, can you tell I was an elementary school principal? Sorry about that. But unfortunately, we can't do this in person. But we're going to do great work together anyway. So I wanted to get started. And I see another person in the waiting room, Mr. Bailey.
Yeah, let him in.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted to get started with Mr. Bailey's going to give a little bit of an introduction and, who we are, why we're here. And then I'm going to ask him to really kind of take time to hear from all of you as to why you're here and why are you going to spend, an evening with us in this deep, tough work. And I know it might be a little time consuming for tonight, but it'll be important as we start to just build out the foundation of our work. So I'll let Mr. Bailey take it away and I'll monitor the way.
Thank you, Ms. Salinas. So the first thing we're going to do is some introductions, and I'd like you to state your name. I'm going to call the first group is going to be the American Attendance Area student. You're going to state your name, your grade level, and then why you want to be part of this team. With this many people on the call, we have about 25. We're going to try to keep it for a minute or under, and then I'll go to the parents. Then I'll go to the bargaining units, and then I'll go to the community at large committees, and then board trustees. And as Ms. Salinas said, it's a very big committee, which is a good thing. But the first thing we have to do is make sure we know kind of each other and understand that we're all comfortable doing this work together. Because when we talk about equity, we need to make sure that everyone trusts each other on this call, and that we make sure that we listen and hear everybody's remarks when they speak. So it's important to make sure when you're not speaking, if you could have your mic muted, and then we'll give whoever has their mic unmuted the floor to speak. So we're going to start off with the students first. I'm going to name the high school attendance area. And once again, if you could just state your name, what grade level, and why you want to be part of this team. So we'll start off with the American attendance area.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mega. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a junior at American High School. The reason I wanted to join the equity team is because I'm generally a really socially mindful person, but I kind of wanted to translate my passion for fixing inequity in our area to real work, and that's why I kind of applied. And I think the pandemic has exposed a lot of inequities and a lot of gaps in the frameworks that our district has for supporting our students. So I just wanted to be an active participant in changing that.
Thank you very much. That's going to be very difficult to follow up with that, but we'll go to the Irvington attendance area student. Do we have the Irvington attendance student here yet? Harshwana? No? Okay, we'll go to the Kennedy attendance area student.
Hi, my name is Muafika. I'm a senior at John F. Kennedy High School. And the reason why I wanted to join the equity team is to be able to have a voice for my school and represent my school.
Thank you very much. If we could go to the Mission attendance area student.
Hi, I'm Allison. I'm a junior at Mission San Jose High School. And the reason that I wanted to join this team is because a lot of my close friends are actually part of what this team wants to help, like they're low income or part of a minority. And I just thought that I could make a more widespread impact by joining this team. And I look forward to working with y'all.
Thank you very much and welcome. If we could have the Robertson, Vista, or Coyle student rep.
Hi, I'm Peyton Hill. I'm from Robertson. I am a junior, and I would like to be a part of the equity meetings, to see change and everything. And also, being an African-American woman, a lot of us don't put our voices out there, especially in the community. And I would just feel like it's a good place to start,
Thank you very much. The Washington attendance area student.
Hi, I'm Anshal. I'm a sophomore at Washington High School. And the reason why I wanted to join this was because the thought of like everyone being together and everyone, being able to understand each other and, not having, it's like a bridge. I want to create a bridge and so people can, and it doesn't matter if you're like income or your race, just having a way that people feel comfortable around each other, especially at school. That's why.
Thank you very much. And did we ever have the Irvington student? No? Okay. Next, we'll go to the same thing, but we'll go to the parents by attendance area. Parents, if you could just state your name and then what schools your children attend. So we'll start off with the American attendance area. Parent rep.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Sangeeta Shrikant. I have two children. The older child is a freshman at American High, and my younger son is in 6th grade in Ardenwood Elementary. And I've lived in Fremont for 20 years, and I've been very active participant in Ardenwood's PTA. I'm a board member, been a school site council member for 3 years now. So I really wanted to participate, beyond my school level, to have a voice at the changes that the district is actually thinking of making, especially equity for all students, whether they're in special ed, whether they're gifted, whether they're in the minority community. I really wanted to have a voice and work collaboratively with other members who think alike. So that was the reason I joined the committee.
Thank you very much. The Irvington attendance area parent rep.
Hi, my name is Annie He. I do apologize. On my screen it says that's my son's name. I don't know how to change it, but I'm from Irvington attendance area. I have one sophomore in Irvington High School and one in Horner Junior High. I currently am sitting on the Irvington PTSA, also the board member. I have been very active in the school community. And in the past, this is the first time I applied, and I thought, I've been here 20 years. This is time to really participate and be part of the community, to join the conversation and to see the best for our community.
Thank you very much. We'll go to the Kennedy attendance area parent rep.
Hi, my name is Lisa Cito Ip, and I represent Kennedy. My daughter is a sophomore there, and like William Fika said, I wanted to be a part of this because I wanted to ensure that our school gets representation. We have a lot of unique needs. 1/3 of our student population is Title I. We also have a high percentage of special needs, and just wanted to make sure that we are well represented.
Thank you. We also have another parent rep from Kennedy because we also have some at-large seats on here. So there's a second parent rep from the Kennedy attendance area. So Nancy?
Nancy Quay. My two boys, one is a 7th grader at Walters and one is a 2nd grader at Meadows. So they'll be in Kennedy, I'm sure, before I know it. And I want to be involved in this work because I'm an educator, high school teacher, and now administrator. I've been in education for 17 years. And I just want to also give back to the community that I've lived in too for almost 20 years. So happy to be here.
Thank you. The Mission attendance area parent rep.
Hi, this is Suli Lin. I also been active in the school community. So I was the PTA president for Mission Valley and Hopkins for a few years. Yeah, my son is a freshman at Mission San Jose High. I think over the summer there were some discussions around in Mission San Jose High about racial discrimination. So I just want to inclusivity and diversity is near and dear to my heart. So just trying to see what kind of positive changes I can bring to the school community.
Thank you and welcome. The Robertson Vista or Coyle parent rep.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mina Naveed, and I'm at this point also sitting on the governance board of COIL as a parent member. I am very actively involved in my community. I am working part-time with one of the civil rights and liberties organizations. So inclusiveness, inclusive environment, equality, this is something very dear and very near to my heart. And working in this line for almost over 10 to 12 years, I really appreciated FUST's this initiative, and I wanted to have that widespread impact, especially on in our educational environments. So that's the reason why I joined, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you. And the Washington parent rep?
Hello, my name is Elisa. I have 2 kids. My daughter is in 10th grade. My son is in 7th grade. Both of them went to Parkmont Elementary, and then in 7th grade, they both joined the Spanish immersion program. The reason why they joined late was because our English at home is not so great, so we wanted them to learn good English. But in 7th grade, we thought it was a good idea for them to join the Spanish immersion program. And the reason why I thought about joining this team is because when my daughter was in the Spanish immersion program about to start high school, I actually found out that there were a couple of the high schools here in the district that offer level 4 foreign language classes, actually allowed some of the languages, but Spanish was not allowed for 9th graders. So obviously that didn't make any sense, and well, that made me realize that there were quite a few things that didn't quite make sense, and I thought it would be a good idea to see what else we can fix.
Thank you and welcome. We also have 2 community members. So community members, if you would like to introduce yourselves.
I'll go first. Hello, I'm Lucy. I think similar to pretty much what everybody has said so far, I care deeply about equity and inclusion. I am an MSJ grad myself, fairly recent, 2013, which feels like a long time ago now, actually, but definitely still feel very relevant to my lived experiences since then. And no matter what, I do feel very connected still to the students that came after me, and I'd very much like to build a district that is better for them than the one that I went through, even though it was overall a pretty good experience, I think. Yeah.
Thank you and welcome. And Navpreet?
Hi, my name is Navpreet Bedi. I am an educator, but a very passionate person for equity. You know, one of my cornerstones of my beliefs, my philosophy is that everyone needs to be treated with fairness and justice, and we need to empower every member of our community to participate fully in the social, cultural, and economic life that we present here in Fremont. And as an educator, I am very passionate about this in my classroom, and here I am over here in this committee.
Thank you and welcome. And we have one more at-large parent rep.
Hi, my name is Faria Khan. I am a parent of 2 kids at Irvington, one at Wybell, and 2 who have already graduated from Irvington. I've been very involved in the community for over 15 years and been PTO, PTA, PTSA president at multiple schools over the last 10 years or so. I joined because I was actually previously on the equity committee when Dr. Deshaun Givens was part of the district. And I am really, I want to make sure that not only are we hearing the voices that are in the room right now, but also really paying attention to who's not in the room and why aren't they in the room, and really making an effort to reach out to those communities that are not represented in our committee here today. And specifically, I want to make sure that the Muslim student voice is heard and the Muslim parent voice is heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to go to, we have some existing committees in our district, and we have either a parent rep or a staff member rep there. So from the Curriculum and Instruction Committee.
Hi, my name is Stacy Kalimlim, and I'm representing the Curriculum and Instruction Advisory Committee. I am an educator here in FUSD. I actually teach kindergarten, and I was interested in joining this committee because I think equity is a word that people have different understandings of what they believe the meaning is. And I'm hoping that this committee will dive deeper into it. And like what Faria had just said, we need to think about what the voices are in this room, as well as the voices that are not in this room. I want to continue to be part of a great district, as I've been in this district for 19 years, and just want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our students, educators, and staff members.
Thank you very much. Also, the rep from APAC and LCAC, it's the same rep, but I don't know if they're in yet. No? Okay, we'll go to the DLAC committee. I thought I saw Anna Chen. No? Nope. Okay. Now we're going to go to some of our bargaining units. So from CSEA.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Wally. I am from CSEA. I'm a school secretary at Mattis Elementary. And part of the reason why I wanted to join this committee is because I do feel deeply for all of our students, and I want to make sure that everyone is successful. And I do think equity is something that, like Stacy said, is widely diverse, and some people maybe delve deeper into that. Thank you.
Thank you. FSMA.
Okie dokie, I'll go first then. Hey, I'm Walt Lewis. I'm from Centerville Junior High School. I'm the principal at Centerville. So, you know, why am I here? I consider myself on a journey towards equity. And I'm really here to learn from each of you and to share and to grow, quite honestly. It's part of who I am, is to work on equity issues and to help my staff work on equity issues. And part of that is really to learn from each and every one of you. Similar to Ms. Khan and others, I want to be a voice for our most at promise students and students underrepresented in our decision-making process and for decisions that affect each and every one of them. I don't consider equity what I do. I really consider this journey towards equity who I am. And so that's really why I'm here. And I look forward to this work. Thank you. Christina?
Well, Walt, you took the words right out of my mouth, a lot of it. But I do see a question here that I'll address first. So FSMA, I guess kind of in general would be administrators in the district. They're not actually a bargaining unit, but they're a group, but they're an association. And then CSEA is one of our classified unions. And so that was what those were. I don't quite know the acronyms, but I can tell you what they do. So with that, hopefully I addressed it. My name is Christina Arroyo. I am the proud principal at Hirsch Elementary, which is in the Irvington attendance area. I have actually been a part of the equity committee since it first started with Dr. Givens. I've been a part of it and am really looking forward to seeing next steps, seeing a much more diverse group, seeing representation from so many. My background is I've been in Fremont Unified. This is actually my 24th year in Fremont Unified. I was a classroom teacher for 15 years. I've supported special programs, and some of those student groups that we don't often see are migrant students, are English learners. I've supported Title I, and I've worked at a variety of elementary schools, as well as when we were able to offer summer programs to our criteria selected students. I am also a parent in Fremont Unified. My daughter is in high school and has been in Fremont Unified since the kindergarten, and she is now in her junior year. Oh my goodness. But I think that this has always been a passion of mine. I think mine stemmed personally from, inequity that I faced when I was in high school. And that was because I am Latina. And so it's just kind of been something that I've kept at the forefront and something that I have worked in quieter ways in the background. But I look forward to working with this group, to learning, to understanding more, because I view myself as a lifelong learner. At my school, we have special education, and what it looks like. It looks very different at my site, and we have a great and diverse group of students that I want to make sure that every single one of them has their voice here and across those of our district.
Thank you very much. And from our teachers union?
All right, I'll start, Kara. I'm Glennis Mason. I am a program specialist in special education. I work with schools in the Irvington attendance area, which is quite an honor. I'm going to be honest. I would say I'm here to talk about unpacking institutional bias. But I'm here to talk about that. So then once we do that, then we can think about what equity means, and does it really mean equal for all, or does it mean giving each student what they need? And so working in special education is something that's very close to my heart. And I think I'll just end by saying, I feel like looking at the diversity of this group, it makes me really excited about the power of so many different people and so many different perspectives and background. And that power we will leverage to be brighter, I think, and better as FUSD. So thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Glennis. Kara?
Hi, I'm Kara Coleman. I am a 17-year educator. I teach third grade at Wybell Elementary, and I've had a lot of students come in and out of my classrooms. I've seen so many diverse kids, and it's just so important to me to make sure that we have that equity for all. And, the last year or so has been pretty eye-opening. And I think it's just very, very important to me. I have 2 kids of my own. My husband is African-American. We've been through our own journey together, and it's very special for me to be a part of this. So I appreciate it, and I'm happy to be here and happy to learn from everybody and to give my 2 cents.
Thank you very much. We also have 2 board trustees. So board trustees.
Oh, hi. I'm Desiree Campbell, and I have been a school board member. Now, this is my 9th year of being on the school board. I have also worked with the African American Task Force, Parent Advisory Committee Task Force, and I also sit on the African American Parent Advisory Committee, among other things that I do in the district. So I am really excited to see this group, and like many of you, I'm here to learn. I'm here to listen. I'm here to understand. I don't have a vote. I may have a say, but I don't have a vote. So, but I know I don't have my way either. But I just want to be able to offer insight, and if I can, and to really learn from this group. And I too am excited about the diversity of the group, and I'm really excited to see young people. It's great to hear a student's perspective, and because you actually are, boots on the ground. You're in the classroom. You're experiencing it. So I always enjoy hearing from you and listening from you and learning from you as well. So thank you.
Okay, this is Vivek Prasad. I've been active with FUSD for quite some time, right, when my kids were going through school. And we as part of the PFA admission, we solved some set of problems. But to me, I'm here to also learn first. I mean, I come with some notion of what equity is, but again, I mean, that's maybe a myopic view. So first thing I want to do is to hear and learn. And a lot of people here have said the right set of things is, I mean, listening, keeping our listening ears open will expand our scope and be able to come to consensus. And when there's a large committee, I can say that equity within this committee will be the first challenge, right? How do we get everybody to have a say and be heard and then create actionable items from here? So I'm very excited. I mean, I volunteered to be on this committee because equity and equitable outcomes are near and dear to me. So like Desiree said, we can provide feedback. We are not here to vote, but please use us as a resource to bounce ideas off. And we are here to participate with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to make sure I did not forget anybody. Perfect. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Fremont. I went to Patterson, Thornton, and American High School. I currently have a daughter and sister that are teachers in our district in the American attendance area. And then also have my last nephew going through American High School right now. And I'm very eager to be on this journey with you. As many of you said, I'm here to really listen as a white male. I need to acknowledge the privilege that I've had and look at what changes I can make when I have a board policy or a student in front of me. How am I going to react now? So I think somebody says, I think it was Glennis that said something, it's time for us to look at what we're doing at the district and how is it affecting students. So I have committed myself to all the other administrators in the August PD, that's going to be my journey as a white male. I think I need to understand that. And sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable as a white male, and I need to get used to that and be comfortable with it. Because I think like Walt Lewis said, I'm here to learn. Because I think if we all put our heads together with this very diverse group, the one thing that's going to be the benefit is our students. That's why we're all here. All of us want to affect the students and their outcomes. We come from different lenses on how we interact with students, but we're here for the same purpose. So I'm very eager and looking forward to this work. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen next month, but it's going to be a continued journey that hopefully we could be on this journey together as we go through this. So Ms. Salinas, would you like to wrap it up before we go into, I'll go into the makeup of the team after that?
Sure. So thank you. So I'm entering, I think it's about my 25th year in education, my first year in Fremont. I've worked in Hayward Unified, overseeing 6,000 English learners in Hayward. I worked in San Francisco Unified, supervising a cohort of schools that included the Bayview to a very affluent area of San Francisco. And so I've kind of seen the gamut, but what I've learned is that it takes all of us to really look after our kids. And a lot of times, a lot of people say students, and I always say kids, and I know I have to kind of relanguage myself, but I think with students, when you have a student in front of you, they represent so much more. They represent their family, they represent their community. And so as we have students in front of us, I know that a decision that's being made or a student who is having some kind of an outcome, it's not just affecting that one student. It's affecting a family, a community. And so I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all. And we'll give it back to Greg, Mr. Bailey.
Thank you. And I just want to real quick talk about the makeup of the team. As it's been mentioned before, the district used to have a very small equity team under the direction of Dr. Gibbons. We really want to expand it. So we went to the board, and the board has approved this as a district committee. With that being said, we also have a lot of representation. We have students from every attendance area. We have parents from every attendance area. We have community members. We have at-large members. we really wanted to have people from existing committees to be a part of this, because we know it's everyone in the district that needs to tackle the issue of equity. And other committees are working on it, so we need to make sure we come together so we have a unified front when we tackle the equity issue. We also have members from the bargaining units. We have our classified staff, which makes up our attendance clerks, our secretaries, our paraeducators, our school registrars. We also have management, and that could be anywhere from a principal to an assistant principal to a director. And then we also have teachers. We have a large teaching population, and they also have 2 seats on this committee. We are still looking for 2 reps in our custodial ranks, or SEIU, and they have not submitted any names to us. So we might have 2 more people join us, but it was important for us. And I know it's a very large committee and it's difficult to do via Zoom, but we wanted to make sure that all the voices were heard, but more importantly, that we were working together as a unified district, because we are a unified district and we need to make sure whatever we do, we try to unify everyone in the community, from the little TK student or Glencler student all the way to the most senior level superintendent. So it is something that we are very much looking forward to. And with that being said, with the board, it is something that we will, it's not board approved, but it's on our website, but we'll make sure that these are recorded and our agendas will be posted so our community members know what we are working on moving forward. Letty, anything else before we go into your framework?
I think that's about it. Yeah, I'm ready to go into the framework. And I'm going to, bear with me, I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Let's see, hold on a second. Oh, Greg, you may have to do it for me. And I promise, you know what, Greg, if you don't mind, can you share for me? And I apologize. And I promise to learn between now and next time. As he's sharing the screen, thank you, Greg, Mr. Bailey. Something that I took notes as you were each talking, and I want to share that the next time we get together, I'm going to have a kind of a graphic organizer to really kind of get us back into the room. But one of the things that I do want to speak to right now is, I think one of our board trustees brought this up. How do we create equity of voice with such a large group? And then how do we do this to ensure that everyone's speaking? So here's a couple of things. We have chat enabled. So I encourage you all, you already started, I don't think I need to encourage you, please use the chat feature, because it'll be important for us to, some folks like to sit back and have kind of a quiet thinking time about this work and may feel more comfortable putting a question or posing a statement. I will pause a lot, and I also ask you all to take care of each other. If you notice that there's someone that hasn't spoken yet, or sometimes it's encouragement or it's reminding the speaker at the time to kind of quiet so that we can hear other voices. I think that's going to be really important as we start to delve into this. So I'm going to start with, it is a slide deck, and I will make sure everybody has it, and we'll continue to build on this, but we've got some opportunities within the slide deck to really hear from all of you. So the first notion is that we have to have a framework for integrating equity into all of our work. I understand that, and I appreciate that many of you were members of the previous team that was a little smaller, but you already did some pretty deep work. You worked around looking at the mission, you're looking at definitions of equity, you certainly looked at the board policy, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. So we want to build on that. We're not going to look at this as what's not working, let's get rid of it. What I come from is a notion of building on success. There are wonderful things that are working for kids in Fremont Unified, and otherwise, we wouldn't be here. But something that resonated with me was, how do we make sure that there's the voice of the kids, that there's the students that are not in the room, or the families that are not here present? So that's going to be part of our charge to ensure that as we start to work out the work of the equity team, how do we ensure that it's action oriented, that we have equity of voice, and that we are reflecting and building on the success that currently exists in Fremont. Next slide, please. So we have to start from here. So as we begin to build the process of developing a framework for our work, It means that equity is in all areas, right? And that's why it's so important, so crucial that we have such a diverse group today. We have parents, we have students, we have the folks, our teachers, the folks that are on the ground doing this work. We have our policymakers that I know they don't get a vote, but honestly, it is so powerful to have board trustees in the room because they are the policymakers. So it's going to take all of us. So we start from where we are. We are here. Our goal, as you see on this slide deck, is in the horizon. But before we get to that ultimate goal, we're going to have to identify our areas of focus as a team. We're going to chart a path forward, getting to those action items that we will see as markers as we start to do this deep work. We're going to look at integrating equitable practices. It runs the gamut. It runs from in the classroom to our HR department, to our custodial staff, to my work as a cabinet member. This really encompasses the whole district. So it's integrating these equitable practices across Fremont Unified. And then we're going to have milestones. It gets really tiresome. Equity work is tough. I've heard many of you have been doing this for years. I appreciated hearing from Mina, Ms. Naveed, who has done this equity work for so long. And what it takes is that you have to have these milestones so that you feel like you're making this forward progress. So we'll talk about that as we start to build our work plan. Next slide, please. So here I want to talk a little bit about the current work that was to date. So as I started to look through the website and look at some of the work that had been done in the past, I saw that the equity team at the time had looked at this goal about establishing partnerships with our families and community to increase academic success for all students. That is what was seen as the ultimate goal. But I want to pause here for a second, because I think that that is a wonderful, big, broad goal. But I'm going to ask you right now to do a quick write. Take a couple of minutes to think about this goal. What from your perspective is missing here? We're building on success. So take a moment, think about it, and jot down what from your perspective is missing from this broad goal. And then we're going to share out, or you can put it in the chat. We'll take a couple of examples. Okay, start to wrap up your last word. And let me hear from a few of you. And I see it in the chat. Well, why don't we let's start with the chat. Equitable opportunities for all students in FUSD. Make sure to support FUSD students to be mentally healthy, academically affluent. Not all academic success, but social well-being. We need the commitment from everyone. Somebody else would like to share. What do we see as missing from this? That wants to read their notes. Academic success without breaking down institutionalized barriers is still perpetuating white supremacy. Partner with educators, all staff. Unobstructed entrance, introduction, involvement of and full participation of learners in schools, programs, and activities. Well-rounded success, academic, physical, sports, and mental health. Okay, wonderful. And Greg, if we could make sure we keep this, save this chat, we will use this as we continue our work. What's missing? Oh, here it's two more, excuse me. The partnership with the inclusion of students. Students and families feeling included and appreciated across cultures. All students being supported when it comes to school and also out of school, both physically and mentally. Having sufficient staffing and infrastructure that meets the basic needs for a conducive learning environment. Wonderful, good, thank you. Well, let's go to the next slide. And again, we're going to be building on this. So this is what I consider what's called a goal workspace. So keeping in mind what we just saw, our goal, and then what was mentioned, I'm going to put this on the table for us to really kind of grapple with. Integrating anti-racist practices in FUSD as an underpinning of all of our work. So we heard a reference to this before, right? So we're going to call it what it is. The work that we have to do has to be supporting curriculum and instruction, hiring practices, policy making, maintenance. It really runs across all divisions in a school district. So what I thought about is that as we look at how do we integrate anti-racist practices in Fremont, these are the words that popped up for me that we need to be able to do this work: humility, understanding, respect, representation, compassion, diversity, certainly tact. It can be really hard to talk about anti-racist practices if the people in front of you aren't listening and they're saying, hey, I'm out of here. I'm feeling uncomfortable. So how do we build our team and our work to be with dignity, with compassion, but at the same time with confidence and worldviews? Next slide, please. So here's what I'm thinking, and I'm going to propose this to all of you. There's areas of focus in a district as we start to embark on this work. And I took a stab at trying to group them. And I'm going to ask you to grapple with this and give me some feedback. So if I were to look at the areas of focus as we work towards this goal of anti-racist practices as the underpinning of our work, I started to kind of make buckets. There's the bucket of curriculum and instruction and requirements, ed code and board policies and California Department of Education and Common Core standards and instructional minutes, all of that. Then there's restorative practices and supportive climates. That speaks to how do we discipline? How do we ensure that students have mental health that is positive and they feel supportive? And how do we ensure that a school has the positive climate? How do we ensure this climate for our employees? Remember, it's going to take all of us, right? Staffing. How do we ensure that we have staff that is up for the challenge or that is already coming with some of these practices and really adds to our work and is additive value to our team? Student and family engagement. And I put there, maybe it's an element of all areas, but certainly, we have our students in front of us for the majority of the day, but our students go home. And then how do we make that bridge? I heard that word earlier as well. How do we engage with families to come forward? I think one of the most fantastic things I heard tonight was that we had some folks who said, I want to go beyond my school. This is one of my first committees that are beyond just my school site. So that's true engagement. And then alignment. We can't have curriculum instruction working on something over here, and then Greg's working really hard with student support services over here. We need some kind of an alignment because that's the way we become more efficient, but also meeting the needs of all in an organization like a school district. So I'm going to pause here. And I'm going to open it up for dialogue, or if you want to go into the chat and tell me, are these all the buckets? I'm calling them buckets. That's not that's not a technical term, but are these all the areas of focus that will really capture how we're going to do this work towards this goal? And Navpreet?
I have a suggestion. Is it possible that the student and family engagement, if you could include in that, because a school community that we are building here should not just include student and family. It should be student, staff, and community and parents engagement together.
Mhm.
Because we are all part of this community and we have a lot to contribute.
Mhm.
And I think in one way, and we have a great diverse community in Fremont. And I think we need to start using those resources we have over there for the equity, because we have not been tapping those resources so far.
Mhm. Mhm. Good.
Thank
Words
you.
matter. Thank you. Who else would like to add to that or give other input?
This is Annie from Irvington, Denton's area. I don't know which bucket it should go to, but I came here with one thing in my mind, which is, we're talking about equity, we're talking about a lot of elements, but I think the fundamental thing is to identify the population who really felt in the past they were being kind of overlooked, and that's one of the focus here. We want it to be truly inclusive.
Thank you.
I have a question or suggestion. Oftentimes we have great ideas for programs that we just don't have funding for or budget for. What about including local area businesses? We have Tesla and Lam Research in our backyard, and I know especially Lam Research has had a history of being very supportive of education and local schools, and I think we need to do more outreach to companies. We have Silicon Valley that's just a stone throw away, and they're always looking for ways to give back. And so, we're not telling our stories, and I think there's a lot of help in funding rather than, going back to an empty well of the state or the federal government levels.
Thank you. Trustee Campbell?
Yes, thank you. I'm thinking, I don't see what's missing for me here is sort of the professional development around tackling implicit biases. I mean, to have courageous conversations about race and ethnicity. In order for this kind of work to really take shape, we have to understand where we are internally, how we see people, how we view people, how we buy into stereotypes and how we take those stereotypes into the communities and create these types of environments that we're in right now. And the only way to break those down is to have professional development around that, have some experts come in and talk about that and get people to really think deeply and honestly about how they see children, and really understand that they do have to see children. They have to see them and hear them and care about them in order for these kinds of equity issues to take shape. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Quay?
What Lisa shared, I think it's a great idea to reach out to local businesses, nonprofits for funding. But I think also once we receive funding, how we allocate funding to different sites based on the needs so that our historically underserved communities really get the support.
Thank you. Allison Bai?
Oh, I just wanted to add on to what Ms. Campbell said. I think she raises up a really great point, especially sorry, I have to look for the names. But the parent representative from Mission was talking about, I'm connecting this to my own school, but we had kind of a really big outbreak in a way where our school was kind of exposed for having a lot of implicit bias. And I think what Ms. Campbell brought up is really good. So I just like to second that verbally.
Thank you.
And
go ahead.
You know, I'm going to piggyback on Trustee Campbell's idea about, you know, PDs. You know, PDs just not to recognize the diversity of our students. PDs to recognize the diversity amongst us, you know, the parents, the staff. If we are going to show an equitable atmosphere for our environment, climate, which is very supportive to our students, when we understand who our peers are, you know, who are diverse and who are coming from different cultures, and we understand and acknowledge and in fact positively acknowledge those cultural things that we are bringing in, that will you know, move on to our students, and our students will also feel that supportive climate. So when they see that the staff is not that supportive of each other, they will not be able to feel comfortable with the staff then.
Thank you. And I think if you've spoken, you can put down your hand, so I'm not getting Miss Lynn, did you speak already?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to expand on like what Lisa mentioned, partnership with local business and, you know, high-tech companies. I know a lot of high-tech companies are going through the same thing, right? So they're doing a lot of D&I initiatives. I think having to, you know, to learning their experience, and I think for students to listen to how the future employers are addressing D&I would be helpful to build their perspective, and also providing, you know, equal opportunities to our students within the districts. And we can tap on these high-tech company on, you know, technologies as well. So, you know, we could, yeah, just provide more diverse courses to the students. Yeah, I think the last point is just, you know, whether we have any budgets to work around for this. Like if we come up with initiative, right, that needs funding, like where do we get that?
Right. Thank you. And Sangeeta?
So I had a general comment or an observation. So if you already are coming from a position where you know that, I mean, the way the school district or the way the curriculum has been designed, it's definitely not equitable to students who are in special ed. And you have actually, as a parent, I've taken up a lot of these things up to the director of special education, but you've always got to push back saying that this is how it is. So I really want to know how is this equity team going to actually make an impact? I mean, are we going to make recommendations to the board? I mean, is there a follow-up on of these recommendations are adopted school-wide? I mean, sorry, district-wide. How did it happen in the past?
Yeah. So great segue. I'm going to go to the next slide. And so yes, absolutely. We'll get to that. Absolutely. So I say that because, and I am holding that here because I do want to make sure that I answer that. When we're looking at equity, we need to make sure that we're going beyond just defining equity. But what I was hearing is that we also have to kind of have this shared understanding of what equity is. And I'll be candid, I've worked in many districts where people have different understandings of what equity is. And you'll start to hear it at meetings. Well, equity is, you know, our school didn't get as much money as the other school. Well, that's not equity, that's equality, right? So I think it's first kind of laying that playing field. As we start to look at integrating the goals, though, it's going to be important for us to really operationalize and systematize how we're going to roll this out, because we can also fall into the trap of just talking and planning and having wonderful conversations about equity and looking at data. But I think what we also have to look at is like, how do we start to systematize and build what our action steps will be? So some of the ideas and that I'm going to put out there is that we have to look at who moves it forward. So I heard, for example, if we have an initiative and we say, hey, this initiative will really meet the need of, for example, let's just throw staffing out there. So when I used to work in HR in a former district, I knew that it was very important to make sure that I had enough teachers that were reflective of the population that I was serving. But that didn't also mean that I just had to have diversity in how a teacher looked, but it was what a teacher brought to the table. Let's say, for example, what was the understanding and the training and really that open heart to, as Ms. Campbell said, take, serving our kids. These are our students, and these are the students that we're going to meet their needs. So where that lives would be certainly human resources, right? But how do we make sure that it is an operational, in the sense of how do we support human resources to really be able to do this work? Sometimes it's funding, absolutely. Sometimes it's building partnerships with historically Black colleges, with Hispanic serving institutions. There are a lot of partnerships out there that we have to make the link to so that we're able to do this work, because otherwise it's just kind of us working in isolation, or departments working in isolation. So what I'm going to propose, just to put it out there and for you all to think about for the next time, is we have to look at, as we start looking at the goal or the buckets tied to a goal, who moves it forward? How do we know when the work is done? And then what are the resources and opportunities to be able to make sure that goal happens? Because otherwise it can be very frustrating to the people that are trying to enact the goals. If we say, we really need more diverse teachers, okay, we do, we agree, but then how do we operationalize it? And that is building partnerships. That's ensuring that, looking at the current funding, are we using our funding the way that we want to use it to meet this new goal? Is there buy-in, and with our partners, certainly with our labor partners, as we start to build this? So without going into more details for that, that certainly is something that we're going to look at. And I think the other thing I want to highlight right here on my right-hand side is data. That came up, and I think at the end of this, we're going to talk about what kind of data we need to look at, because that's also important to do, because a lot of times we have our experiences, but we have to also have it based in some data so we can see what is really happening across the whole district. Because although we are representative of our schools and our community, we also want to be working together for change for the whole district. And the way we do that is by situating our work in data. Next slide, please. So here's a construct that I've kind of been playing with. So if we say that the underpinning of all of our work is integrating these practices, anti-racist practices in Fremont, then we can say that we have these columns or these buckets, right? And here's just an example. This is not all of them, but curriculum and instruction, climate, staffing, and that is all in service of our mission, our school district's mission. So I want you to kind of think about this. And at the end, we're going to talk about homework for you to think about as well. And you'll get this slide deck. But this was one of the constructs that I'm a visual person. So I needed something like this to really start to think about how will we do this work. Next slide, please. But then we have to talk about decisions, right? So if we say, if there's decisions in curriculum and instruction, and we have it go through this sieve or funnel about anti-racist practices, it's all going to feed into our mission. So I kind of flipped it. So this is another way to look at it, because it's all going to be filtered to a system that has equity built into the process. That's a little deep. I'm going to let you sit with that for a bit. If we make decisions in curriculum and practices like around climate or staffing or maintenance or school repair, and we have it go through the sieve of underpinning that we have diversity at the center, that we have anti-racist practices as underpinning of our work, it will then filter through a system that has equity in everything. Okay. Take a minute. You're not going to have to share this. Take a minute right now to just kind of jot, what does that mean to you? We're not sharing this. This is just for you to kind of start to think about this.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is racism is the main thing that we are trying to address, or it's all the different equity issues, right?
It's more the practices. So, and I think at the end, and what I want you to kind of think about, like, what other information do you need to be able to have this discussion? I think that will be important, right? But yes, you're bringing up a good point. Once we start to look at how do we filter all of the work that we're doing through this lens, then it becomes systemic. Because otherwise, what I've seen happen, because equity work is hard, is that if you start to address it as an individual issue, if you say, wow, we sure don't hire enough Latino teachers in Fremont Unified, I'm just going to throw that out there. Then it becomes like kind of this isolated thing of like, well, how many do we need? Or what's our quota? That is very, that's not deep systemic work. It becomes deep systemic work when we just say, all of our work that we do in Fremont has to have with this lens of when we hire, it is with this underpinning of our work. When we build curriculum units, we certainly see what CDE, the California Department of Ed, tells us is a requirement, but then how do we make it deeper and better for our students to make sure that our students will graduate college and career ready with an equity lens? So that's a little bit of what we will start to unpack as we move forward.
My confusion is, I mean, not confusion, but I somehow this phrase anti-racist is not sitting well with me right now.
Okay.
When we are talking about equity over here, we are not just looking at racism, we are looking at gender equality too.
Okay.
We are looking at social equality, okay, social justice. So maybe that word, you know, it's a very jarring word. It is not encompassing for me all the other things that equity brings up for me.
So it's too specific. You want
exactly.
You want to
exactly. Yes. So I think we need to have a word that encompasses all that we are meaning. We are saying, like if I say integrate, you know, socially or racially just or whatever you have to, I think we need to think about that anti-racist. I don't know what the other members of the panel believe, but that anti-racist is jarring for me because we are not here just for looking for getting racial equality. We're here for social justice. We're here for gender equality. We are for all those topics over here. We're going to do it.
I think anti-discrimination probably is better.
No, that won't even work over there. I'm sure. I mean, we need a different word over here. There's so many brains over here.
Yeah, and we're not going to solve it all tonight, but I love what you. Does anyone want to respond to that or give a little bit more? I see Ms. Elisa.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same. They have already said. I think we are narrowing our what I think should be our focus too much. Obviously, race is a very important goal, equity based on race. But I think we also need to look at gender identity and expression, socioeconomic background.
Yes.
I don't know. I cannot think about anything else right now. But I am sure there are other things to consider.
So would it be better if we say integrate inclusive and diverse equitable practices or something? We would put the word equity somewhere over there.
I like that. Other folks.
I'll offer another perspective.
Yes.
I think for me, anti-racist is good. I'm perfectly fine with that term, and I think for me the reality is that the system is built on white supremacy, and without honestly really talking about our current racist practices and really focusing on race. If we have too broad of a term, then we lose focus on race, which it really is kind of the underpinning, I think, part of a lot of what we do things, unfortunately, is because the system was built upon white supremacy and separating people based on race. And a lot of our current practices are kind of a continuation of that. So I think if we move away from that, then we move away from something that we really need to address, which is race and racist practices.
I think this whole thing is a big whole pizza. I would say I'm hungry, guys. Dinner time coming up. It's a whole pizza. Half of it could be about racism, but there are other parts to it also that we have to include as a committee. We are not an anti-racist committee. We are an equity committee. So we need to look at other parts because we are dealing with other issues of gender equality, the gender identity. So many of our members in our community are going through those issues. The socioeconomic, how many, because of the pandemic, if you look, so many of our students are suffering right now because of the issues that have, parents are losing jobs and all that is coming up. So how are we going to make sure that each and every one of them is able to be successful? That is our job as FUSD.
So let me hear, I see Lucy Shen.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. I too agree that I quite like anti-racist as a phrase because it really gets to the heart of the matter in a way that I think most other phrases are not honestly capable of. But I do agree that I think it's important that we don't lose sight of all the other important things also that we're working on. While I don't think the solution to that is necessarily replacing the anti-racist phrase altogether, I definitely think we can widen the lens for sure from there if we'd like to. If it feels like we'd be able to encompass more topics than just racism, even though I personally believe that anti-racism gets to the root of everything, that I don't see why not, I guess. Why not add some terminology in there? But I do personally, I actually am very fond of the anti-racist phrase. Yeah, it's very direct.
Okay. And then I'm going to hear from I think I need new glasses. I'm going to hear from Mega and then Glynis, and then we're going to wrap this up. And please know that this is all the input. This is what it takes. We will not decide tonight on this, but this is all important for us to hear. So go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Lucy said. I think anti-racist is a good term because it's more active rather than like inclusive. I think we're actively being anti-racist. And the other thing I kind of wanted to add is that I don't think we should treat these different issues as like mutually exclusive. I think intersectionality is like super important, and that's something that in conversations like these, a lot of people miss out on. So I think we should consider those things as well, but I also like that term.
Okay, and then I'm going to stop with, I think, Glynis, and then we'll move on.
So I'm just going to echo what the last two speakers said. I'm comfortable with that term. I think we can broaden it to talk about equitable practices. The one thing that struck me actually was instead of saying integrate it into our work, I feel like it should be more like establishing our foundation on these things. Like our foundation should be based on these things, and then we go from there.
Thank you. And I'll say that I like the idea of me looking into the intersectionality. I don't know enough about that, and so that might be something that I bring back and looking at for the next time we meet, that we look at how do we broaden this. But I definitely, if you want to put something else in the chat for posterity, so we have those notes, Mr. Bailey and I can look at that, and we will leave that for the next time that we meet. But thank you all. This really is super helpful. And again, this is draft, and that's why we are all meeting to start to look at this. So I'm going to have Mr. Bailey go to the next, and I'm looking at the clock at the same time. So go ahead, break.
Yeah, I'll be real brief. Can I make one comment? There was a question asked about what do we do with everything that we do at this committee or team? Where does it go? We have a variety of options. One, our board receives updates on, I believe, every other Friday. So it would be something that we could write an update on behalf, and then Letty, Ms. Salinas could share that with the board at updates. And also there's 2 public board meetings each month that we could also possibly get on one of the agendas. I can't put something on the agenda, but we have 2 board trustees that are here that might be able to assist us to make sure that that occurs. So it is something that, yes, somehow the board will hear about the work that we are doing or planning to do. There's many times where Ms. Salinas will have directors write a Friday update to the board of progress, what are we working towards, and where are we at in the process. So clearly the board is going to be informed as we move forward what we are working on. Did I say that correctly, board trustees and Ms. Salinas?
So yes, from my perspective, that is the direction of the board that we share with them. And I do want to share that, some of our next steps will be to actually develop a work plan, that we will have something very concrete. And I think that's also important to our board, that it's that we have continual updates to them and we report on our progress.
I'm not sure if you were thinking of doing mini reports and then a big report annually or something like that. But because this is an advisory committee to the board, there is a expectation that you would advise and give us your advice, right? That's the expectation. You know, my advice is that you need to get rid of this book because it's, you know, it serves no value. My advice is to get these books because it serves value, et cetera, whatever your advice will be. But that's the nature of the work that these kinds of committees do. They're sort of like boots on the ground, and then they bring it to the board to help us in our decision making. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll keep this next agenda item real short just because of time, but we're also looking at establishing a new board policy, which I sent to you in a prior email. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully that will show up here. Yes. So that is a board policy. And I want to let you know that we had the prior equity team look at this. So what you're looking at here is really language from the California School Board Association sample of board policy. This is board policy on equity. What you see also on here is when we present board policies to our board trustees, we have to color code the font. You will see the blue color means that we, FUSD, has made that change, most likely through the prior equity team or our own internal team looking at board policies. Most of this language is from the California School Board Association. It's a very short policy, but we want to make sure that what we've done in here, anything that says his, her, he, she, we have taken out, along with we encourage and did some other verbiage changes, and that's what's in blue. Sometimes also we will have legal look at this to see if there's ed code or any legal information that we must have in policies. Sometimes we also have some musts that we must share with that. So what we propose is have a look at this between now and the next meeting, which is March 16th. And we're going to discuss what other changes we would like to proceed, because this has to go to one more reading at a board meeting where the board will give suggestions or they will approve it. There's many times where some board policies will have multiple reads to it. The public may comment on this, but ultimately the board, I'm sure, will have changes at our second read, so we'll have to bring it back for a third read. All the changes are documented, but once it gets approved, all the color will be in one font, and then we'll make sure it's in everyone's hands. That's how our board policies work. We anticipate we would like to bring this to the board sometime in April, just because of some timing that we are up against. But that is something we would like to address further next meeting to talk about possible changes so I can start preparing the document and sharing with the board in April. Does anybody have any questions about this board policy?
There is a question in the chat from Elisa Castillo.
Yeah, yes, I found the link. I believe you said this is based on the California School Board Association.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if the link I pasted is what this is based on.
I'd have to look at the link. I know as a district, we have California School Board Association, and they have all the sample board policies. And we just kind of looked at that. And then, like I said, the equity team also tweaked this some language to make it more our internal language.
Thank you,
If
Mr. Billy.
no other questions, we'll go to Letty for the last
Yes.
agenda item.
Yes, so I put a link there. People can take a moment to go to this link. So what I'm thinking is that as we start to build our own foundational work, I want to make sure that we start to kind of access some of the same resources. And one of the ideas that I had was, this is a wonderful, wonderful organization that used to, back when I was a teacher, it was called Teaching Tolerance. And what they have done is they have now made a shift to a new name for their organization. And their new name is Learning for Justice, which I thought was pretty powerful. And what you'll see is that there's a lot of just of the day articles around teaching and learning for students in our schools. And so I thought, part of our homework for the next time we meet is take a moment to go through the website, see what some of the articles are about. There's some wonderful resources for teachers and our staff and families and community that we can start to see. So that would be one thing, that along with looking at the board policy. And then also the other piece will be if some of you have a link or some resources, particularly to intersectionality, and that would be awesome. If you could also email me, I'm going to put my email in the chat as well, because I think that'll be a good resource for the next time, so that we can really kind of hone in on how do we want to expand the language and our goal, and some of the work that we want to do. So I'm going to put my email in there. And then the last question in the last few minutes is my question around data. And I'm going to ask Mr. Bailey, what is some of the data that in the past the equity team has looked at, and what would be some of the ideas around data?
We've looked at grades, suspension, expulsions. Right now, our APAC group is actually looking at the number of participants in AP courses, honors courses, SAT scores, ACT scores. So we're looking at all that data. We're also looking at special ed data. How many students, break it down by race and ethnicity, and by the learning disability that has been identified. So I think it kind of varies from year to year what type of data we're looking at, but that seems to be the most common ones that we're looking at.
Okay. So what I propose, I mean, we can also get inundated with a lot of data. So what I propose for the next time that we meet, we'll have a time to really get your input and finalize our recommendation as advisory to the board on this policy. And number two, we will do some reading and looking at that website and kind of thinking about how do we expand our definition and our goal. But I think the next thing will be is I'll take a stab at kind of a draft plan, looking at those, what I call buckets. How do we systematize really what our work is? So it's speaking to how do we advise the board? How do we look at giving recommendations? Because we also have committee, we were very purposeful. We have committee members from other groups that are here, and they will also make some movements. So I'm going to give you an example. So for curriculum and instruction, our district has looked at supplemental adoption of more diverse novels. And so the board has actually already made some pretty forward movement on that, on adopting and accepting the staff recommendation and the committee's recommendation on the supplemental novels so that students have access to more diverse literature. So I think it will be important to really kind of take a peek at that work. And as they're starting to embark on core novels, and I know we have a representative here from the curriculum department, to maybe hear a report on that might be something to look at. I don't know, Stacy, if you want to say anything else about it.
Not at the moment, but if there is something you would like to report out, I'm sure I can get information from the committee and get it to either the next meeting or the following meeting, because I think we're jam-packed already for the next meeting. And then just to note that there will be times I might be coming in just a few moments late, as the CNI Advisory Committee actually ends at 6 and this starts at 6. So
okay, that's fair.
So that you know for future things, especially if there's something you would like me to bring back or present, I'm more than willing to talk to you offline and work with the CNI Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Trustee Campbell?
I Can I offer a suggestion in terms of what might be interesting to advise on? I think if we take a look and, maybe this could be a brainstorming activity for us, I'm not sure, of the areas within education, let's say not even the district, that you see inequities, discipline, advanced classes, whatever, recess, I don't know, whatever, take these kinds of brainstorming lists, and then you can go and you can see, does the district have a policy on this? Is this a policy that we should maybe take a look at and figure out in these particular areas, in these particular buckets, we need to work more on, as opposed to just trying to, like, I don't know, because I think this group has some great ideas on what areas within education is really areas that we should target. And we should, maybe it's a brainstorming exercise, or maybe they already know what that could be, so that we could do a checklist. Okay, check, check, check. We went down this list and we've looked at all of these areas across education where there's inequities, and we've addressed them. Right?
Yeah.
And that gives us at least, and we've addressed them within the framework of what we just heard from you. And that at least gives us some areas to work on, gives us some progress, gives us some implementation strategies, gives us an opportunity to be able to have accomplished something in a particular area. It's great that we got some books. I mean, that's great, but that may not be the heart and the meat of what we really need to be addressing when it comes to equity. Special education is another one that might be on our checklist. Let's unpack everything in special education that is perceived by this group to be inequitable, and let's address it. And that's it for me. That's just a suggestion, but I'm here to give suggestions, not to make orders, just giving suggestions.
And Desiree, just to add to what you said, we're having a rubric that we are measuring ourselves on, right? And creating a list of all the topics, like you said, special ed and advanced courses, and how are we performing there on each one of those? And let's make that big list. And obviously we can't impact all of those, right? But let's see where to start, how to create impacts sooner than later. And equity, I would like to challenge the group to not just look at equity within FUSD, look at equity, what other districts may be doing, and what opportunities we may be able to offer our students. Like Ms. Salinas, I also tend to call them kids, because that's what they are to me, right? So yeah, the kids need to have the best that we can offer them, and there's in all kinds of media you see comparison about, oh, that school district did this, or the other school district did that, and let's learn from the best of the best and see how, I mean, if FUSD is close to the top already, how to make it even better. Thanks.
Thank you. And, in the interest of time, because I know some of us are going to go to another meeting in a little bit, what I'm thinking, I just had this brainstorm. Why don't Mr. Bailey and I send a survey to you all in the interest of I like that idea of just a brainstorm, thinking about how do we make a rubric, how do we look at policy implications. And so we'll send something to you all. Give us next week, and we'll send something to you all to react to, and just do a survey where you kind of do a brain, because they call it a brain dump, right? Just tell us. And I think that will be great for us to hear your input that way. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. So, okay, so I think I'm looking at the clock. So I want to thank you all This was powerful. Talk about a powerhouse. I was just texting Mr. Bailey. Wow, what a group. This is great. I really want to appreciate that there's some of you that I have not met yet. And I think that also speaks to I'm just really excited of just meeting so many new people and really being in this work. So thank you all. Mr. Bailey, anything else you'd like to say?
No, exactly what you said, Betty. Maybe we could also share a folder, a Google folder with everyone, so we could put our documents into a shared folder. So when I get time, I will do that before our next meeting, and I'll share it with you to everyone have access to, so we could dump the resources in and what data we're looking for, so we could look at it whenever we see. So I'll start working on that as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Thank you. And as I said, if there's anything else, we'll put that on the survey. If you want to link any articles or research that you're all aware of, that will be important to really build this work as well. So with that, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Thank you, Ms. Salinas.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Good night.
Good
Bye.
night.
Ms. Salinas, you killed it tonight.
Oh my God.
Good job.
Thank you. You did a great job too. Woo. We'll get it. We'll get there. Hey, can you save this chat? Are you able to oh God, I'm so ignorant to this stuff. Oh yeah, look, if you click that little button, it says save chat. Oh, not to everyone. Or merge to, what is that?